Okay, you can see my screen right
Yes,
now?
I can. Yeah, it looks fine.
Okay. So
looks like Blackhawk.
it looks like Blackhawk. Within the warehouse management side of things, hold on 1 second. Tina, are you recording this? And if you're not, can you? Oh, you just started it. Okay, I just see the message now popped up. Okay. Within the defined warehouse management, as Bob has packaged it, we have really receiving, scan to move, downstocking, everything you see on the screen there, downstocking, pallet pack, replenishment, and cycle count all get sort of packaged in together when we're doing the warehousing stuff. I don't know that we need to go over the receiving side of things. I feel like you have a. Oh, am I locked up because my screen? I'm gonna turn my video off because that might be dragging things back.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So that should move a little quicker. Do you need me to go over any aspects of receiving within this, or?
No, I don't think so, unless you need to
Okay.
do it for the sake of the recording.
No, I don't. No, not for the sake of recording. I'm doing this more for you. So, okay. So once product is received in and we have all those serial numbers within Blackhawk, the next logical piece within the warehousing module would be to take that and move it from receiving to wherever you're going to warehouse it. And we use our scan to move program for that. So within scan to move, I have a couple different flavors of it. One of them is sort of after a kind of a transform model of, let me, give me the location I'm going to put something at, and then I just start scanning serial number, serial number, serial number, and it moves all of those individual serial numbers to that location. A number of years ago, Howell said they want to do it different, so we developed an alternate method where you first scan the serial number, and it can give you all the information you need about that serial number. So let me just put one in here. Okay, so I'm going to just minimize this right now. I'll talk about that in a moment. So I scan the particular serial number, and it's going to give me the information of what is that serial number, what's the quantity, and where is it currently located. Now, within just a very standard warehousing, we're just going to allow them to take it and move that product from where it currently is to put it wherever they want. But we can make that a little bit more robust and mature by actually configuring out and defining our entire warehouse. So for every location that we have, I'm going to jump out of this program and go into facility config. For every location that we have, we can define what can go into that location, what can't go into that location, and what location type it is. So for example, for this location that is called bank here, it is defined as a primary stocking location. And I can set my max and my minimum of how many containers max can be in there, or pallets. What's the minimum? If it goes below a certain level, I can set my warn level. And I have that location. It is locked to a specific single part number. So it's saying that for that location bank, I can only put one part number in there. And the part number I have that mapped to is this GM1526170. Now I could just make it, just a general location that would allow anything to go there. Or I can set that as a location of, well, allow anything to go there, but when I scan one thing to it, then it becomes locked to what that one thing is. And so now anything else I put there has to be a matching part number for that.
Oh, okay.
And then we have other ways you can define that. I can go to any part. If I define a part family, so here's a family of 20 parts that I put together into a part family, allow any of those to go into the location, or any single part in the location. So we just all these sorts of different rules that we can apply on top of that location to define what it is and what can or cannot go there.
Okay.
So I would say the majority of our customers just leave all their locations as available to any part and multiple parts, or they'll lock it to a single part. It's locked to a single part that is scanned to location. So once one part is scanned there, then it locks to that single part. Now, if it clears out completely, you can scan a whole different part into there. But that's 0 and 1 are how most people would use that.
Okay, that makes sense. Keeps
yep.
things together and such.
Exactly. And then for any location, we can define it as a primary location. So if stuff's coming in for receiving, it should always go to this location first. So our primary, we have an overflow, and then pick face. So if you have stuff up high, that needs to be brought down low so that people can pick from it. define a pick face location, and then a line location. I added a storage location in there because we have those customers that like to put 80, 100 trailers out in their parking lot someplace. And so we can define all those as specific storage locations and treat those differently. So I'm just going to change this particular location back to what it was, and it was a GM1526. The 170. I'll just redefine it there. Okay, so that is defining this particular bank location as locked to a specific part number, and I'm locking it to that part number, and it's like pick the wrong one. 70. So as we're back in scan to move, if I scan that particular serial number again, I have it set so that it's automatically going to pop up this box, and it is going to suggest, because this is a GM1526170, it's going to suggest here's where you should put this particular container. Now it's suggesting bank because bank was defined for that 1526-170, and it was defined as the primary location for that. There's currently one container in that location, and I have a max of 10, so that's why the system has decided this is the best place for me to put it. Now, if this location was full and we have multiple primaries and then some overflows, it would start suggesting those also. And it's also sort of in a FIFO order of, hey, you should always put it here first and then go here second. And then I just have some filtering criteria down here that, if I have locations that are full and I want to see what those are, if I have any unassigned locations that, aren't defined, I can go ahead and show those and throw it out there. So it just takes the guesswork away from the person doing scan to move of having to figure out where to put stuff by telling them where they should be putting stuff.
Yeah.
So I can just go ahead and select bank here. Now I have that turned on so that once you scan a serial number, it's automatically going to suggest where you could put it. Now we can turn off the automatic suggestion, but you can always click on the button to suggest the location, and it's just going to bring that window back up for us and tell you where to put things. So that's the putting away side of stuff. So let me I will select bank here. And so it says moving to bank. Now that doesn't mean it's there yet. We actually have to get to that location and then scan the label. And once we scan the bank label, then it will go ahead and move it there. Those containers currently at fin and cannot be moved. Okay, so I have some other business rule defined on that particular container that once it's at fin, it can't be moved away from fin. And I was doing some testing of stuff for Magna roll stamp to lock things to a location. So I didn't realize I had that still turned on. But so that's the basic premise of taking stuff from receiving and putting it away.
Okay.
Now, once you need to get stuff and move it to the line, we have a couple of options of what you can do within the warehousing model for doing that. The most simple is to just use scan to move and scan it from your warehouse location and scan it to the line. Or if you're scanning it from your warehouse location to a pick face location, then from pick face to line, we can sort of define the flow of that. But ultimately, we want to get stuff out to the line. So a person would go to where that's the part that they need to get is located, and then they would want to pick that and take it to the line. But they don't necessarily know where it is. So we have our part locator down, this little button down here in the lower right-hand corner that I can say, okay, I'm defining it for facility all. If you had multiple facilities, we can define plant 1, plant 2, plant 3, and I only want to be looking in plant 1 for this material. And then you can either scan or type in the part number of what you're looking for. And just say, go ahead and locate all the parts. And it's going to give you all the parts that we have out there by FIFO order of, is it a container? Is it a pallet? So here is, this is the first item that I should go and get because this is the oldest one that is out there and it is at location A. So I should go to location A, find the container that I'm going to be scanning. And it's telling me right now it's that particular serial number I should be looking for. But it looks like there's, a whole bunch of stuff in location A of that particular part number. So I could go there, scan one of those. So let me just scan that serial number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 4. I can scan that particular serial number, and it's going to tell me, yep, is that location A. And then I would just scan my to location of the line or wherever I'm going to take that to. The FIFO rules are all defined really by the part number within facility config, because to enforce FIFO by a location doesn't make much sense.
Yeah,
in
especially
that
if you're changing what's stored there.
Exactly, and you might
Yeah.
have 20 containers spread over a whole bunch of different locations. So that's why we can't just enforce it necessarily by the location. We enforce it by the part number to tell you which part number go get this serial number, because this is the oldest one and it is at that location. And then you can take it and move it to wherever you want to. I'll just see if I can move it to Fin, see if it'll let me. This part is not allowed to be scanned as location. Location Fin only allows part number. Okay, so I have my Fin location currently defined for only a specific part number there right now. So if I come back into facility config, let's just go look at that. I have Fin is locked to that single part number, and it is that one. So I'm just going to change it to say, let me put anything I want into Fin. Now if I go back into scan to move. Suggest that, but that's not really what I want to move it to. And then move it to Fin. It's currently at location A, can't be moved. I have all sorts of crazy business rules. It's all locked there because, like I said, I was testing all this stuff for roll standards.
Well, it helps to see like the layer of configurability of all the business rules, though.
Yep. So let me just look at location A and see how that is defined. That's the location. Okay, so location A is available to anything. And the move rules restricted, so anything can be moved. So we allow you to, when you're moving stuff to location A, to say we can only move stuff to location A from these approved locations. Right now, everything is restricted, which means I probably have restriction rules defined on Fin. So Fin, we can only move it there from advanced, from AP1, and from WIP 90. So if I find my location A, location A, and just add that to the approved locations list, that I can move to Fin from there, then we should be able, to now move this. And like crochet, I don't know what other rules on there. I'd have to go through and look through, but we do tightly control which locations, if you're moving stuff to a specific location, what locations can be defined that you're allowed to bring it from. And that, like I said, that was important for roll stamp, because they said we only want from WIP 90 to go to transit, and then we only want from transit to go to Fin, and then we can't go backwards, and we can't go from any, I don't want to go from another location to transit, because people are putting the wrong stuff on the wrong truck, and so I had to define all these crazy move rules for them.
Right.
So that is the scan to move side of getting stuff from the warehouse to the line. Now, we have another flavor of that called replenishment, in which I can be at the line. Let me just basic configuration things. I'm not going to go through what all that is right now. When I'm out at the line, I'm working on a line and I'm running out of whatever parts that I need, and I can go ahead, find that part, or I could actually scan in a part number, the barcode, to find a part and say, hey, I just ran out of, this 1581733, and I need more of that at my location. So my location is, I'm going to say I'm at location A. So here I'm at this particular location. I need more of this stuff right away, and so I want to issue a request for that. Request more contains unavailable for inventory. So it's telling me that, hey, I'm requesting a part, but there's no inventory for that part right now. So I just
that's a problem.
that's the problem. So let me just pick one that I know we have inventory for here. GM1526 should have.
I guess it's a good informational message instead of sitting around waiting for it to show up for somebody to tell you that you don't have any.
Yep. Okay, so I just selected this 1526-170 and I said, okay, location A, I put this particular request out there for that part. So it's in this status of requested for me. So at the line, I can now sit and sort of wait for the high-low driver to receive that in the warehouse, and then they'll go pick it and then they'll get it for me. So that's the request side of the equation. The high-low driver who's sitting out there, who is monitoring location A, just sees, hey, I had a new request show up for that particular part. It's requested to location A, and it was requested this time. And so they can say, oh yeah, I'm close to that. I can go get that. So I'm just going to select that and assign that particular request. This is just like a bucket that everybody would see. They're gonna say, okay. I want to take that. I want to assign that one to myself. And so it comes off of the general list. But if I go into my pick mode list, I see, okay, now this one is assigned to me. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to deliver that to the line. And then the next question is, okay, well, where on earth do I go and get this from? So then I have to show inventory and see where are, for that particular part number, where are they located out in the warehouse? And so we can see we have a whole bunch of them at Finn. This is all, again, by FIFO order. So it's going to tell me, go get that particular one. That was from 2019. And it's at Finn. And then we're going to pick that one and we're going to go deliver it to location A. So I would say, okay, I'm going to head into Finn. Once I get there, I can take and scan that particular serial number onto the truck. And I didn't write down what that serial number was. Let's see, RCV ends with 62. So once I'm there, CV 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 6, 2. Oops. Oh, I don't have it turned on so I can manually type it in. It's only set for a scanner. Shoot. I don't have any barcodes printed out with that on it either. So I would scan it in there and it would take this particular location. It would scan that serial number so that I have that one locked to the move. It's going to move that from whatever location it's at Finn, and it's going to move it to my particular forklift location, because each fork truck is defined as a location. And so that the person back on the request mode would see, okay, this is now, it's on a truck, it's on its way to me. And it wants to scan there. Once I get it there and I'm delivering it, this is essentially just doing another scan to move transaction where I would scan that particular part. It's going to do the scan to move transaction from that location it was to my forklift location. And then I'm finally doing it from the forklift location to the line location that I'm delivering it to. Gotcha. So it allows you to do scan to move with sort of this request layer laid on top of it, of knowing what exactly I need to be getting and taking and delivering to the line.
So once you scan and deliver it, then in the background you're generating an XTC TRC then?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
And we have the intelligence built into that if we're, we have all these Blackhawk locations that are out there. Now, you might have 100 locations that are only mapped to a single transfer M location.
Right.
And so we're always looking to see, okay, whatever location in Blackhawk I'm moving from and to, are they mapped to different transfer M locations? And if they are, then we'll send the TRC transaction. And if they're not, then we don't do anything on the ERP.
Yeah. There's no sense.
There's no sense in it. We also support not only just doing the TRCs, but doing the TRIs and then the TRR to resolve that.
Right.
People tend to get in too much trouble with that because they'll scan things to the TRI, the in-transit location, and then not know what to do with it or how to resolve it, and then they're just sort of stuck out there. So we really encourage everybody, let's just do TRCs to these different locations.
Yeah, once it gets to the destination. That makes sense. And I'm sure otherwise you might pick it and then be like, oh, wait a minute, let me put that back. There's
exactly
somebody needs to look at that or whatever, and then it's just kind of out there in limbo.
Yeah, and I don't even know, I'm sure there's a way to reverse a TRI to put it back where it originally was, because it's not really moving anything. It's just taking it from one location and putting it in limbo on the ERP.
Right, yeah, it just kind of puts it in.
Yeah, and so it's just sitting out there. Yeah, so So that is the request. Again, it's all based on the FIFO rules of we're gonna request that you go out there and get the oldest item or the oldest container that's out there. And within that, we build sort of a buffer window whenever we're doing FIFO to say, okay, the oldest container is from 2/6/2019 at 9/31. Give me anything that's from then or like 24 hours or 12 hours within that particular time, because a person might not be able, to find that exact container. So we want to allow them to get containers, that were received around that same time or last dealt with around that last time. So it just gives them a little bit of wiggle room within their FIFO rules, because if they lock down FIFO to the exact oldest container, there's always going to be disappointment and frustration.
Right. Won't be able to find it, or the label on it will be destroyed, or
exactly. And now once you can't find it, now you've got to somehow get that moved to a non-active production location, or somehow flag that so that we go to the next item on the list, and then the next item on the list until you find one that's really out there. And we just alleviate that with putting in that buffer. We usually start with like 24 hours for people. I've had plants go up to like anything that's within 2 weeks of my oldest container out there. Let me move that one because they're just managing their warehouse so poorly.
Right.
But yeah. I'm going to hit on three other warehousing things, but within a given location, if you are scanning all pallets to that location, but need to be consuming the individual containers to the line, we wrote a downstocking program that would allow you to scan what is your master, the pallet that came in. And then I can either break that down into its individual containers by printing labels for each of those, or if all of those individual containers are already labeled, I could just scan and use the information that is on them. So really, when people are receiving things, they're always receiving on the master, and we have no idea what the simple container serial numbers are. So we just hold that master serial number in our database, and this allows you to sort of nibble out a container or two, or all containers if you want to, of that master, so that it can be scanned to move and taken as an individual container and not as a pallet moved to the line. There is an option in here that, if I scan a master label and I just want to downstock it into everything, all the individual containers, I can check this. So it'll just, do as many as it can. And it's always asking me, okay, what is the standard pack? Because, my master is received in on, a quantity of 100, but each of my individual containers might have 10. And so I would just put, my standard pack is 10. And if I'm going to downstock all of them, now it's going to generate 10 individual containers and print off 10 labels for me for all of those 10 containers that I could either stick on it, or sometimes they just put it in an envelope next to it, so that as they're consuming those individual containers off of the pallet, we're maintaining the traceability on all of that information.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah. So the downstock process, most plants don't use this. I feel like when they're consuming things to the line, they're usually moving a pallet down and then or taking that entire pallet with all the containers on it to the line and then just letting them all be consumed as they needed. So not too many plants choose to downstock into the individual containers, but we always have it there and available for them if they wanted to. And then the reverse of that is obviously pallet pack, and I'm sure you're familiar with that. Just taking a bunch of simples, putting them together into a master, so that you can just move it around the warehouse much easier. The last major piece of the warehouse management would be the cycle count. The cycle count, we used to have it integrated within to TransferM, and grabbing location on hand information from TransferM and then having them do the cycle count at the actual location and doing the comparisons and all that, and then try to do the it was a cycle count adjust stock, CCAS we were doing, because we got too scared. We were never going to do a reset stock. That was frightening to us. So we would just send the delta of what was thought was there and what was actually scanned there as the adjust stock. But then we even got away from that and just say, you know what, let's just cycle count locations just to make sure they're correct in Blackhawk. And then if you want to manually enter that into TransferM or whatever ERP you're using, that's your choice.
Okay.
So the cycle count module that we came up with, so I can define a cycle count and I can give it a name if I want to. Nobody ever does because there's not really a need for a name. And you can select what facility you're going to, and then you're going to pick one or more locations if you want to be cycle counting locations. We used to let you do it by operation, whether you're selecting the in queue or the out queue at different operations and cycle count that. But again, that was when we were more tightly coupled to TransferM with this. So really nobody does a by operation at all anymore. Or we will just allow you to do a complete physical inventory of all parts, all locations. And then we can just flag everything as needing to be counted. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a couple locations here. I'm going to select by location for finished parts. When is I'm scheduling this to be done? It's going to be today, right about now. And is this going to happen once, or do I want it to automatically reschedule this weekly or monthly or quarterly? Within the system, once one is complete, if you have any of these set, it'll just reschedule the next one for you right away. So I could just say, I'm just going to do one right now. And then it says, okay, what locations do you want to be scanning? And I could just go ahead and pick a bunch of locations that may be close to each other within the warehouse, and then often assign that and just say, okay. And so then it defines my new cycle count that I just put on there, which is the default one. And we can see it's for those locations that I had selected. I had defined another one earlier just for that location A because I knew there was lots of stuff out there. So within the system, now that we have all these locations defined, we can actually look and see what is, here's the scan container. So within this particular cycle count, nothing's been scanned yet because I haven't started it. And what's expected? Okay, well, here's all the containers that it's expecting us to find while we're out there. And so it looks like there's a whole bunch of containers that are at Finn, and the other locations that I selected really didn't have anything. Like if I went to this other cycle count that I had created up here, within location A, it's expecting just 2 containers for me to be out there. And so then once I have that defined, I could then go to whoever my scanner is out on the floor and say, hey, go count these locations and see what's really there. So they would start a count, and it just says, are you sure you want to start this inventory group? All protection must be uploaded to, and all batches processed prior to starting. And that's when we were tightly coupled and looking at the inventory numbers on TransferM. This is just sort of a legacy thing left over from that. So now it's just asking me, okay, what location am I at? Am I scanning? So I can either select that, or if there's a barcode on that particular location, I can scan that location. So I'm going to say, let's go to Finn. And then I just start scanning all my serial numbers that are in there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5, 0. Scan that first one. And oh, I must have typed it wrong because it does not recognize what I typed. It's already started. Yes, I know. Scan to Finn. Okay, so I scanned that first serial number. It was found at Finn. And it was this particular part number. Tag number was not assigned to it. We did tag numbers for TransferM because somehow with cycle counts that was important, but I don't remember why.
Yeah, when you're doing a physical, it is. When you're doing a physical, it has to be, each count has to be tied to a tag.
It does. Okay. Yep. So I know we can auto assign a tag to that, or there's a way that I don't remember. Oh yeah, tag number that we could have the user type that particular tag number in if they needed to define what tag it was.
Yeah, the thought process was that you bought the tags that had the the carbon copy. You would wire it to the pallet and then rip a copy off, and then the people in the back office that were doing the physical key entry off of it would have it, and then
I gotcha.
If they had
so really, what you're
questions
doing scanning,
about it, they'd give you So
with the scanning, is not as important to have.
Right.
That, I guess. Okay.
Way faster too.
Yeah.
And way more accurate, I'm sure.
Yep. So I'm just going to scan that one particular container. So I can go back on my scanned containers list and see, okay, I've scanned this one particular container that was on there, it falls off of my expected list, um, because it is a known serial number. So say I just went out there to this location and this is all that I had found. Uh, why now I need to disposition that particular location, because we have a whole lot of stuff that's there that shouldn't be there. So on my disposition, I say, okay, here is all the missing containers that weren't scanned in that particular move group. And so
Mhm.
instead of deleting them out or getting rid of them, all we do is we allow them to be moved to a new location that we create. And so I just call that a cycle count lost location. And then it's named 3013 because that was the ID that was assigned to this particular cycle count that we were doing right
Yeah,
now.
okay.
So we would just again do an automatic scan to move location from wherever it is fin to cc underscore lost underscores 3013, to get all those out of there so that now I know my fin location is correct based on what's really truly there in real life. And then once I have all those moved out, I would just click on reconcile count, and it would just take this particular cycle count that I was doing, and it would move it to history so that I could see it later. Back in the day when we talked with transfer M, reconcile count was when we actually did all the transactions up to transfer M for
Gotcha.
the adjust stock.
Okay.
And then we just have all of our standard reports that I can look at based off my count here. It's all just reports that it's asking me a question. Do you want to see serial number data or not see serial number data? So I say, sure, I'll see serial number data. And so it's just going to give me at the fin location, scan quantity was 63, location quantity 63, and just, what do I need to do that needs to be adjusted? Now I haven't, since I didn't move stuff to the lost location, it's all still showing up on here. The moment I moved all that off of this report,
Yeah, we just have that one.
it would just have that one exactly, and
Yep.
then I would have my adjustment, the delta for that, and then I can base my percentage of accuracy of that location, based off of what was really happening out there.
Cool.
So yeah, so that is the cycle count side of things. I'm going to jump into a few of the reports that we have. I don't know if you've seen at many or some of our reports. These are just kind of the basic ones that we give with the warehouse management system. The first one is a serial number locator, and serial number locator is just a standard web report of let me type in a serial number, and then I'll give you all the information that we have about that particular serial number. Active labels is let me put in a part number and see what all is out on the system for that particular part number. A move audit report is just what moves have been done by a person. Location locator. Let me see if I can bring up location locator, because this plays in with the FIFO stuff and with really you saw a version of this within scan to move because it allows me to type in or enter any location and just see what all is at that particular location at any moment. So for
Gotcha.
location A, here, so if I'm moving stuff around, like say I'm moving stuff and I put it in transit and I want to know what is on transit to another one of my plants, I could just put in my transit location name, and then it would give that. And then this is linked automatically into back to the serial number locator, which was one of the other reports I talked about. So I can click on any particular serial number and sort of see the history of what happened with that serial number. So for TLSN01, here's what it is. It wasn't moved, it wasn't shipped or anything. Let me see if I can find a serial number that has some movement on it. Okay, so for this is Indian manufacturer for that GM part. It's in, so here's the container. It was created by me. It was moved from fin to fin, which means it was actually created and it created in the fin location. So I haven't moved it yet. So as I do scan to move and move items from location to location, it would show you the history of all that. Um, date, time. I can put user on there and anything they want to see for a particular container. Yeah, and so that's pretty much it. Let me see if I can bring up the active label locator. I don't even remember if I had this one installed here. So part number 6-17. Okay, so for that particular part number, here are all the serial numbers that are out there for that particular part number. Their quantities, where they currently are located, it's all displayed in a nice FIFO order for us again, so that we can see what's out there. And then as I can do sort of a quick cycle count on here, like if I know, these 3 containers, someone moved them, but they didn't scan them properly, and so I just need to get them out of there, so I can actually just mark those containers as shipped so that they fall off of our system and they're not out there anymore.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Now we did a small little program, which I don't talk about much, but I'll talk about it with you because you're not a customer, so I don't care if you use it or not use it. But we did this for auto systems because they said, we really like your cycle count, but it's just way too much for what we really need. We just want to take everything that's in a location, move it out of that location, and then scan that location again to move it back. And then whatever wasn't scanned, we just consider as not there anymore, and we don't care about it. And so within scan to move, I just put a quick location audit on here so that they could go ahead and say, okay, I'm going to just audit. Just pick one of these. I know it's not going to have stuff in it. I'll pick coatings. And so it's going to create an artificial location out there called coatings audit, and then the date and the time. And so what'll happen is everything that is in coatings will get moved from there to this new location that we've just created. So I would process the move. Then I could go within scan to move and say, I'm going to scan things into coatings. So scroll too fast. I can go in here to coatings. Let me scan all the serial numbers that are there real quick, and it's going to move them back from that temporary audit location back to my normal location. And then anything that's an audit, I can either just blow away or ignore because I know it's not really there. So it's kind of a quick and dirty sort of cycle count without the full traceability of cycle counts.
Right.
And everything that offers you.
Takes away that commit step then, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yep. So those are the things that really fall within the warehouse management solution that we have. Warehouse management probably infinitely more than we do. So what questions you have, or what things did you not see in here that you'd like to see, or what can I answer for you?
Yeah, I mean, it looks, it does the things that you need to do. I mean,
yeah, that's what we hope. I know now we couldn't go into like an Amazon because just the way that they do warehousing is way more complicated than anything we're doing. But
right.
But within automotive and aerospace and what we're doing, I feel like we're hitting it pretty decently.
Yeah. Yeah, and you make it easy to keep everything serialized as far as traceability, so that you can see all the history and make people like Honda happy, for example.
Exactly right. So I'll just show you. I know I mentioned when we're enforcing FIFO, it's not by location; it's enforced by part number. So I just show you as you select any particular part number, you can say enable FIFO for this particular part, and I have everything defaulted as to be by FIFO, and I have it locked down to give me the oldest one. So I can say enable FIFO for that part, and give me a 1 buffer day. And so as I'm scanned to moving that part from anywhere, it will allow me to find anything within 1 day of the most oldest item that it finds out there.
Yeah, so I think it was the replenishment where it queued it up, and then the truck driver could see a list of the things that the lift truck driver could see a list of the things that they needed to like pull and move and such.
Yep.
Is there like functionality for a pick list to be generated that would hit their screen similar to that, only maybe to pull for a shipment, let's say?
We don't have shipping interface into the replenishment.
Okay.
That's never been a request, but that's an interesting idea.
That was something that ITW was looking for at one point. Was that because their warehouse was they were shipping out of their warehouse, but basically they were shipping everything to the warehouse. It went in a rack, and then when they had a shipment they needed to go out, then they needed to be able to, this is the list of things to go get them from these locations, and enforce the FIFO, like,
Right.
kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting idea. We could definitely add that in if that was a need for someone.
Okay. I was just
Because at
curious.
that point, once you've generated your shipment and you know what you want to go out, for us to create all of the requests for that to show up on this particular screen, that's simple. That's because we're just saying, hey, we need, of this particular part number, we need, we'd give you 10 container requests, or
Right.
maybe
Yeah.
if it gets to be a lot, because sometimes when they're shipping small boxes, and it's a truck of technically like 200 or 400 small little totes, we'd have to rethink how we present that, because 200 items on this list would not be manageable.
Right.
Maybe we could summarize all that by, okay, here's a particular shipment, and I need 20 totes of this particular part number, so I could give a quantity of 20. I'd have to think through that, but I think we could tackle that.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Other than that, I mean, that's the only thing I can think of off the top of my head that I've ever heard anybody ask for. That, because with automotive, most of it's just in time. You're making it.
Right.
It might sit in a rack for a little while, but not
Yeah,
very
not
long, and
much.
then it's out the
It
door.
makes
You're
its way
lucky if
to
you can
shipping.
make enough to like keep the customer going,
Right. Exactly right.
especially these days.
Yep. I know. That's as we're moving into doing some aerospace stuff. It's crazy because within automotive they're making a part every 60 seconds, and now in aerospace they make a part like every 3 or 4 months,
Right.
because
Yeah.
they're just so big and so complicated and all that. So
Yeah, that's a
whole different
different
world.
animal.
Yep. Yeah.
Sometimes cross pollinations of those kind of methodologies and ideas, though, gives you some aha moments. Like, hey, you know what?
Yeah. Yep.
You know
Exactly.
what that would be good for?
Yeah. Well, just like within automotive, we came up with the idea of, as you are moving through your routings of how to make a part, you have 2 or 3 routings. Well, this plant that we went into for aerospace, they came up with, they're like, well, we're going to do our entire process, and each step is going to be its own routing. And so we, to make this one part, it might have 140 routings.
Okay.
And so they did that, and within our system, it scaled up and actually handled that really well. And
Oh, yeah.
I'd never seen it. Now they're not using an ERP at this point, and so they can get away with stuff like that. But once they start going to an ERP and having to be finding those routings on the ERP,
That might, yeah.
that's
might
all
change
going to
their
change
ideas,
very
but
quickly.
yeah. So they're changing the sort of changing the part number every step of the way then?
No, they still have a single part number, but as they're building up their assembly, a routing would be like apply this bolt, and then the next routing is check the torque, check the
So
torque,
kind
of
of
this
an
bolt.
entire new routing for what would be like an operation then.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, but it works for them.
Yeah. I could see that.
Yeah.
What might be interesting is sort of stitching those things together, where you have the lineage of, the part gets stamped, it has a suffix, it gets welded, it gets a different suffix. Kind of like the way that Iroquois does business might be kind of interesting. Like if you could then see that lineage, like this is the master routing, this is including all the part number changes, like this goes to that, and you got to make this and you got to make that. It would get a little goofy because you've got multiple components that you might have sub assemblies that you have to make, and then you put them together. But
yeah,
so it might be a cool, like, over 30,000 mile overview map of this is how this finished good comes to life. All these things need to happen.
right. Yeah. Yep, I like it.
So I think part of the problem with Transform is that it does a little bit, but it doesn't really do a great job of sort of conceptualizing and visualizing what's going on and what the pieces parts are. I mean, if you dig into the documentation enough, maybe, but who does that? Nobody.
Exactly. Nobody does that. Exactly.
Nobody.
Right.
People like pictures and flows and such.
Yep, indeed. And that's why Blackhawk was able to survive, because we take your shop floor and your processing and bring it down to something more visual than
Right.
Transform was doing back in the day.
Something visual, something you can see on a scanner, something you can put on a tablet. You guys are
Yep.
multi-platform, all kinds of fun stuff.
Yep. Exactly. So, well, cool. This actually came in under an hour, and I was expecting.
Yeah,
to
I think
go
that's
a lot.
everything I needed to see. I mean, it's yeah, this is great. This is yeah, I like this quite a lot because a million years ago, you know, I think we tried to get you guys into maybe it was Nitto, I can't remember. And they had like this elaborate homegrown system internally that did a break pallet, make pallet, kind of all kinds of stuff, and it kept track of the serials, and then it was sort of interfacing with Transform, but it was doing it through screen scraping and all kinds of weird
Oh
stuff.
gosh. Oh,
Yeah, it was
jeez.
really, really awful. And I think at that point I asked Bob, I said, "Hey, do you guys do this kind of stuff?" And he's like, not really.
Yeah.
And that was a really long time ago.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's why I was excited to hear that like you had one. I'm like, well, let me see that.
Yep. Cool. Yeah. Awesome. Well, we can take this recording and make that available to you if you need that to be showing anyone I know as you're talking to people and
Yeah, that'd be
trying to
great, actually.
process.
Yeah. That way it's
So,
kind of a low level of commitment. Like, no, I'm not asking them to sit for a demo. I'm just asking them, hey, take a look at
right.
this. Like,
Yep.
this was my Q&A, and you tell me what you think. Would it help
Yep.
you or not? And if so, then okay, let's move forward.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure Tina can edit out our conversation that's on this now.
Yeah, you
And
might want to.
I think
At
Tina,
least
don't
the
you
customer specific references
you're
we might
right.
need to pull
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. And Tina, do you usually throw those on YouTube, or how do you make those available?
Yeah, I put them on our YouTube channel because that's the only way to share this link.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's easier for you then, Brian, because then you can share that also.
Yeah, perfect. Love it.
Good. Awesome. Well, if you think of any other questions, let me know.
I will do.
Or if there's anything else you want to see.
All right. I appreciate it. Great demo.
You're welcome.